The Xiraxians were not evil. At least, not in their own minds. They called themselves explorers, scientists, keepers of order. For thousands of years, they traveled from one planet to another, studying life, measuring intelligence, and deciding who was ready to join their great galactic system. If a species was weak or wild, the Xiraxians removed their leaders, cleaned up their systems, and brought peace. Peace through control. They believed they were helping. When they found Earth, they thought it would be easy. Another young race. Loud. Messy. Emotional. The humans looked primitive. They still fought each other. Their skies were full of smoke. Their oceans were full of plastic. Their internet was full of jokes, lies, and arguments. To the Xiraxians, humans were children dangerous only to themselves. So, they activated Protocol 7. The culling. It had worked 327 times before. The plan was simple. First, cut the power everywhere. No satellites. No internet. No communication. Then, strike hard. Take the main cities. Kill a few leaders. Destroy the idea of hope. Finally, offer a new system. Food. Water. Medicine. Order. Most species accepted after a week. They sent 14 ships. Each one the size of a mountain. Silent. Black. Shaped like a claw. They appeared above Earth without warning. No lights. No message. Just shadows. One hovered over New York. One over Moscow. One over Tokyo. The rest spread across every continent, like watchers. Waiting. At first, people didn't believe it. Some thought it was a trick. A movie ad. A government project. But then the power went out. Everywhere. Planes fell from the sky. Phones died in people's hands. Then the sky turned red. The first attack hit London. A pulse wave flattened the city center. Buildings cracked. Windows shattered. No fire. No sound. Just sudden destruction. People screamed. Ran. Called loved ones until the lines went dead. In Beijing, a giant drone released a mist that made people fall asleep instantly. Thousands collapsed in the streets. In Cape Town, a blue light burned across the ocean, cutting off all sea travel. In less than 24 hours, half the planet was silent. The Xiraxian commander, High Scholar Vector, watched from orbit. He was pleased. Stage 1 complete, he said. The humans will break tomorrow. But Earth was not quiet. Not yet. In a small village in Kenya, a young boy named Kamau found a way to power an old radio using scrap metal and a bicycle. He started sending messages in Morse code. We are alive. We are fighting. In Brazil, a group of teenagers from a favela built homemade drones using parts from broken alien machines. They flew them into enemy patrols, guiding them with old video game controllers. In Ukraine, a grandmother picked up a fallen alien weapon and dragged it into her basement. She couldn't read it, but she pressed buttons until it fired. In the United States, a retired soldier named Ellis shot down a scout drone with a hunting rifle at over 500 meters. He didn't miss. Reports started flooding in. Resistance. Not organized. Not planned. But real. The Xiraxians were confused. Why are they fighting back? Asked Commander Vector. They should be afraid. They are afraid, said one technician. But they fight anyway. The aliens increased attacks. They used stronger waves. Sharper weapons. Faster drones. But humans kept adapting. They used fire. Water. Wires. Stones. They used old tech, new tricks, and pure rage. In a mountain village in Nepal, monks used mirrors to blind drone sensors. In Germany, hackers broke into alien systems using 20-year-old laptops. One Xiraxian scientist, SS Okal, wrote in his personal log, "This species is not logical. They are unpredictable. They resist without plan. They sacrifice without thought. They do not surrender. They are wrong." But it wasn't wrong. It was human. Humanity didn't follow patterns. They didn't fight clean. They laughed in danger. Cried in battle. They lost homes, families, and friends and kept moving forward. Some Xiraxians wanted to leave. But Vector refused. "No species has ever defeated us," he said. "This is not the exception." But deep inside, doubt had started. Because for the first time, the Xiraxians were not just fighting a planet. They were fighting a species that refused to die quietly. They were fighting something they didn't understand. And fear was growing. The Xiraxians didn't understand what was happening. They had studied thousands of species. Most were smart. A few were strong. But none fought like this. Humans didn't fight to win. They fought to keep fighting. After 3 days, Earth was supposed to be quiet. That was the plan. But Earth got louder. In Canada, lumberjacks blocked alien transport lines with burning trees. In India, farmers poured oil into alien tanks and set them on fire. In Tokyo, programmers made a virus that confused drone maps, making them crash into walls. The aliens tried to stop the signals. They used jammers, firewalls, pulse blockers. But humans kept finding a way. In Australia, a group of school kids used mirrors and sunlight to flash messages between towns. In Italy, old men used church bells to send warnings. In Egypt, women painted giant arrows on rooftops to guide rescue helicopters away from danger zones. Nothing made sense to the Xiraxians. These people didn't act like soldiers. They didn't wear uniforms. They didn't take orders. But somehow, they worked together. The aliens called a meeting. High Scholar Vector stood in front of his council. "We expected surrender. Instead, we face chaos," he said. "This is not war. This is madness." SS Okal, the scientist who had warned them, spoke next. "Humans are not logical. They are emotional. Reactive. They feel pain and then use it as fuel." The room was silent. One general finally asked, "So what do we do?" Vector answered, "We crush their spirit." The next day, the aliens attacked the world's most loved cities. Paris, New York, Seoul, Buenos Aires. They used a new weapon, the plasma storm. It didn't make noise. It didn't explode. It simply erased. Buildings melted. Roads turned to dust. Millions died in seconds. And yet, from the smoking ruins of New York, came a signal. Old. Slow. Repeating. Morse code. 3 words. "We're still here." The signal repeated every 5 seconds. Over and over. For 12 hours. The aliens found the source, a damaged ship, half buried under rubble. Inside was a young girl. No older than 10. She had learned Morse code from her grandfather. She didn't cry. She didn't beg. She just kept pressing the button. The soldiers who found her didn't know what to do. No human child had ever survived a plasma storm. One of them whispered in his alien tongue, "This isn't normal. This is something else." They left her alive. Across Earth, the message spread. "We're still here." It became a symbol. People painted it on walls. Tattooed it on their arms. Wrote it in the sky with stolen alien lights. Resistance exploded. In Nigeria, street gangs became freedom fighters. In Poland, train conductors turned old engines into battering rams. In Alaska, a tribe used sled dogs to deliver medicine across frozen fields, under drone fire. Humanity was bleeding but not breaking. In fact, something strange was happening. People who once hated each other, were now fighting side by side. Rival gangs. Enemy countries. Former soldiers and peaceful monks. They were not fighting for land, money, or power. They were fighting for Earth. The Xiraxians were shocked. SS Okal wrote again in his log. I have seen unity forced by control. But this is different. These humans unite through loss. They do not fear death, they carry it like armor. Vector grew angry. He ordered full lockdowns. He sent in war beasts machines 10 meters tall with claws and heat cannons. But even they failed. In Peru, villagers trapped one in a canyon using logs and vines. In Iceland, fishermen lured one onto thin ice. It fell through and never came back. Alien weapons were powerful. But human creativity was chaos. No rulebook. No pattern. Just millions of people, thinking, feeling, surviving. And fighting back. On the seventh day, a message was sent from Earth to the Xiraxian fleet. It was not a threat. Not a surrender. Just a video. It showed a nurse in a war zone, saving lives under fire. It showed firefighters pulling children from rubble. It showed people handing out food, water, blankets even to strangers. At the end, there was one sentence. We are not what you expected. The message was signed. From humanity. High Scholar Vector watched the video in silence. No bombs. No weapons. Just humans helping humans. Under attack. Under fear. Still choosing to care. He didn't understand. But deep inside, he felt something he had never felt before. Doubt. The Xiraxians had seen many species fall. Some cried. Some begged. Some just gave up. But humans didn't do any of that. They got angry. They got smarter. And they got louder. High Scholar Vector stood in front of his war map. It showed red zones where humans had lost control. But every day, new blue dots appeared, places where resistance had started. It didn't make sense. These areas had no armies. No weapons, one officer said. Then how are they fighting? Vector asked. The answer was simple. And terrifying. They're using whatever they have. In Detroit, car mechanics turned auto parts into armor and flamethrowers. In Thailand, street vendors filled balloons with acid made from cleaning supplies. In the Philippines, fishermen hid bombs inside fish crates and floated them to alien docks. Everywhere, humans used what they knew. In one town in Mexico, a mariachi band distracted drones with music while kids ran supplies through alleyways. In Scotland, old castle ruins became bunkers. In South Korea, gamers used VR headsets to train real soldiers. SS Okal, the Xiraxian scientist, watched all of this in silence. He studied battle reports, resistance videos, human messages. He watched a grandmother throw boiling oil from her apartment window and take out an alien scout. Then he whispered to himself. They turn fear into fuel. Pain into purpose. They don't break. They burn. Vector didn't want to believe it. He had crushed 327 species. All smarter than humans. All more advanced. But this species was something else. He demanded a new plan. Break their hearts, he ordered. Take their symbols. Burn their history. Make them forget who they are. So the aliens attacked landmarks. They destroyed the Eiffel Tower. The pyramids. The Great Wall. The Taj Mahal. But instead of making humans weak, it made them furious. In China, a 12-year-old girl painted a new Great Wall with spray cans across the ruins. In Paris, people wore shirts that said, "I remember." In Egypt, teenagers formed a group called Sons of Stone. They said, "You can destroy our past, but not our pride." Then something changed. For the first time in the war, a Xiraxian ship went down. In the forests of Vietnam, humans used mirrors, heat signals, and fake radio calls to trick a command cruiser. It crashed into a mountain. The crew survived but was captured. Humans didn't kill them. They gave them water, treated their wounds, and asked only one question. Why? The commander said nothing. But the youngest alien, barely more than a cadet, spoke softly. "You are not what they told us." News spread fast. Even across space. Inside the Xiraxian fleet, more voices started to doubt. Soldiers asked questions. Technicians hesitated. SS Okal made a choice. He sent a secret message to Earth. "I want to speak to your leaders. I do not believe in this war." At first, humans didn't trust him. But they listened. And for the first time, a Xiraxian ship landed by choice, not to fight, but to talk. It landed in Iceland. A quiet place. Cold. Peaceful. There, under the northern lights, SS Okal met a human general named Rivera. The alien looked at the general and said, "Your kind should not be strong. But you are. You should be afraid. But you're not. You should be extinct. But instead, you are winning." General Rivera didn't smile. She just said, "We protect our own." Back in space, Vector heard of the meeting. He was furious. He ordered an attack on Iceland. "Burn them both," he said. But the fleet did not move. Why? Because word had spread. SS Okal's message had been heard by more than just humans. Many Xiraxians were starting to think. To question. They had seen the nurse in the war zone. The girl sending Morse code. The fighter who gave water to a dying enemy. And now they asked themselves, what kind of enemy shows mercy? Something had changed. In space. On Earth. In every heart, human and alien, something new had started. Respect. And something even stronger than that. Fear. The Xiraxians were not afraid of human weapons. They were afraid of human will. Because for the first time in their long, cold history, they had met a species that didn't just survive. They inspired. They united. They endured. And that was something no empire could control. The Xiraxian fleet floated above Earth like a silent storm. Still large. Still deadly. But no longer sure. High Scholar Vector stood in his command chamber, staring at the blue and red dots on the map. The red zones, Xiraxian-controlled areas, were shrinking. The blue zones, human resistance, were growing. Fast. "This is impossible," he said. "We have better weapons. Better machines. More power." But deep inside, he knew the truth. They had never faced anything like humans. In orbit, soldiers whispered to each other in private. What if the humans are right? What if we're the bad ones? Why are they still fighting? Why won't they stop? For the first time, the Xiraxians felt something they didn't know how to handle. Doubt. On one of the smaller ships, a young pilot named Krell made a choice. He shut off his weapons. He turned his ship around. And he sent a message to the human forces. "I will not fight you. I want peace." He was the first. But not the last. Within hours, 6 more ships followed. Then 20. Then over 100. The Xiraxian fleet was breaking, from the inside. Vector tried to stop it. He ordered all defectors to be hunted down. He called them traitors. Weak. polluted by human emotion. But it was too late. The virus had already spread, not a digital one, but a human one. Hope. Even SS Okal, the scientist, saw it happening. He stood aboard a human vessel now, wearing no armor, only a simple robe. He watched humans work together, men, women, children, soldiers, scientists, farmers, all moving as one. Your species should have fallen, he told General Rivera. But we didn't, she replied. And you know why? SS Okal nodded. Because you believe in something. Something stronger than logic. Something we never understood. On Earth, the war began to turn. Alien drones malfunctioned as more Xiraxian engineers joined the humans. Supply ships stopped arriving. Orders were ignored. In Russia, a massive alien walker was surrounded by civilians with no weapons, just music, dancing, and lights. The machine froze. The pilot inside didn't fire. In Los Angeles, an alien commander stepped out of his ship and removed his helmet. He dropped his weapon and said, "I am done." All around the world, this began to happen. The invasion didn't end with a final battle. It ended with silence. Vector refused to accept it. From his command ship, he prepared one last strike. The planet burner. A weapon so strong, it could destroy all life in minutes. If they won't kneel, they'll vanish, he said. He raised his hand to activate it. But someone stopped him. A hand grabbed his arm. It was his second in command. The one he had trusted for years. "No," she said. "They have earned their place." Vector looked around. Half the bridge crew stood against him. The others looked away. No one followed his orders. He had lost. Not in battle. Not in power. But in belief. And belief was everything. Vector was taken from command. Not killed. Just removed. The war was over. Not because humans won with weapons. But because they won with will. A week later, in the middle of a green field in Canada, humans and Xiraxians met again. Not as enemies. But as equals. They built a small building. No guards. No guns. Just a table and chairs. There, leaders from both sides signed a single piece of paper. It had 5 words. We choose peace. Together. No speeches. No fireworks. Just quiet. And peace. In a small town in Argentina, a boy helped an alien fix his ship. In Tokyo, a human doctor treated a wounded Xiraxian child. In Kenya, the boy named Kamau, the one with the radio, was teaching Morse code to alien scientists. And far above Earth, the Xiraxian fleet slowly left orbit. Not in defeat. But in respect. They had come to conquer. They had found something greater. SS Okal wrote one final message in his log. The humans are not the strongest. Not the smartest. Not the fastest. But they are something we never planned for. They are fire that grows in the cold. They are chaos that becomes unity. They are the story no empire sees coming. And then, he closed the log. Years passed. The skies over Earth were clear now. No black ships. No pulse bombs. No fear. The Xiraxians were no longer enemies. They had become something else. Learners. Every month, small ships landed peacefully on Earth. Not with weapons, but with notebooks. Not with orders, but with questions. They came to study humanity, not to conquer it. They came to understand. In a school in Nairobi, Xiraxian children sat next to human children. They learned how to build radios. They learned about Earth's history, both the pain and the beauty. One day, a young alien asked her teacher, "Why didn't you give up?" The teacher paused. Then she smiled and said, "Because someone had to stand." the human spirit had become legend across the galaxy. On planets far from Earth, stories were told about the day of silence when humans stood without hope, but still stood. In the icy cities of the planet Calithor, statues were built of a small girl pressing a Morse code button. In orbit around Yul-Ra, the Xiraxians created a museum. Inside, one wall was filled with human words. Painted in every Earth language, it read, "We're still here." Back on Earth, life was not perfect. There were still problems. Still differences. But something had changed. Humans had seen what they could survive. What they could become. And they didn't want to go back. They didn't want to waste the peace they had earned with blood, fire, and unity. General Rivera, now older, walked the halls of the United Earth Assembly. Her hair was gray. Her face marked with scars. But her eyes were still sharp. She spoke to young leaders both human and alien. Don't lead with fear, she told them. Lead with purpose. Lead with heart. S.S. Okal, the scientist who had once studied humans like insects, now lived on Earth. He had planted a garden in his home. He said it helped him understand humanity. They grow from pain, he said. But they choose to bloom. He wrote a book. It was translated into 800 languages. Its title? The Species That Fought with Fire. In the stars, new species heard the stories. Some didn't believe them. How could such a young race change the Xiraxians, they asked. But then they visited Earth. And they saw the people. They saw the ruins left untouched to remember. They saw the lights, the music, the laughter. They saw hope. And then, they believed. One day, a message was sent from Earth to every known system. No threats. No weapons. No demands. Just a message. A video. It showed people building homes. It showed aliens and humans dancing together. It showed a planet that had once burned, now healing. At the end of the video, there were only 2 sentences. We are not perfect. But we stand together. That video was saved in every galactic archive. It was shown to leaders, students, warriors, scientists. It became a reminder that no species is too small to rise. That unity is stronger than power. That the heart can defeat the machine. Years later, a young explorer, half human, half Xiraxian, stood on the edge of a cliff on a distant world. He looked at the stars. He carried 2 things in his backpack. A piece of Earth's oil. A small radio. When asked why, he said, "Because one reminds me where we come from. And the other reminds me we never gave up." Then he smiled and added, "You never know when you'll need to send a signal." And somewhere, deep in the galaxy, the old Xiraxian saying was still whispered. Never underestimate a human.